Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and I'm very glad that you've joined us. We've got a busy show in store for you today, not just because it's typical Trump busy with so much to cover. We also have a very special guest. Steve Sprague will be joining us. We're going to talk about his history in the area, specifically when it comes to county charters. We had the sheriff on yesterday talking about the county in general, and Steve joined us for a pre-recorded interview because you'll see the sunlight coming through to talk about his history studying the charter and when specifically Chemung County went to the executive decision, why we have Chemung County Executive Chris Moss as compared to Steuben County that has the Steuben County manager position. Give us a little history on that and his feelings on that. So that's coming up a little bit later on. First, a comment came after yesterday's program saying, frankly, thank you, what is going on with NYSEG? My electric bill has tripled over the last few months, while my usage habits haven't changed. I know several other having similar experiences. Have you heard any chatter? Maybe we need to unleash Joe Sempolinski on them. I will pass that message along to Joe, and I have heard a lot of chatter on the topic. As a matter of fact, not completely related, but we're going to talk and actually hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano and Joe Sempolinski regarding the electric vehicle mandates, which is kind of part of that larger picture. But to your point, I know some people have been critical or maybe suggesting it's because of the new smart meters. That I'm not sure of, but yes, I have heard a lot of chatter on this. It's been all over, not just social media, but people responding here, texting here to that number on the bottom of the screen. So yes, you are not the only one experiencing it. As a matter of fact, I received my bill yesterday and have not yet opened it for that exact reason, because my smart meter just went in. So I wish I would have opened it now so I could have been better prepared to comment on your comment, but I will let you know. But that seems to be very common. I'll let Joe Sempolinski know that he needs to be on that. Okay, quickly, before we get into the breaking news of the day, we talk on this program about the importance of knowing who you vote for, having all the information before you go into the voting booth, and especially this year as it is a local election year with so many local races up in November. And again, as a reminder, if you are thinking of running for elected office, petitions begin in a little under a month. So please make that decision quickly. We talked about that yesterday with the sheriff as well. But the reason I bring this up and why it seems like I always bring it up is, though this is not local, it's yet another prime example of why it is important to know who you're voting for, and that is Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Listen to this. The boyfriend of scandal-plagued mayor and supervisor Tiffany Henyard clashed with an angry activist who called Tiffany Henyard, we'll just say, a bad name. I can't repeat the name on the program. And it led to a brawl, which also involved Tiffany Henyard. And where did this all happen? And none other than a town board meeting. Activist Jedediah Brown called Henyard, who has served as Thornton's Township Supervisor since 2022, an expletive while standing at the microphone during the public comment portion of the chaotic session. This was just yesterday night. Brown berated Henyard for being more cuss words, a not very good mayor. and then accused her of other bad deeds while he praised the newly appointed trustee, Stephanie Weidman. Then said, "You are gone," expletive. That's when Henyard's boyfriend, Kamal Woods, who was seated in the back of the meeting room, confronted the activist after the speech. The two exchanged punches while other allies of Henyard joined the fracas. Now, as I have encouraged everyone in the past, and so many of our guests have encouraged people in the past to attend town board meetings, city council meetings, this is not typical. If you're fearful of attending, this is not typical of a meeting. Henyard was captured leaving her post in the front of the room with the Board of Trustees and jumped into the middle of the action. It's unclear if Henyard, some have called her Dolan dictator, others have called her world supermayor because she's both a supervisor and a mayor, was trying to break up the fight, we're not sure, or join in. Eyewitness Megan Dudek told NBC Chicago, "I've never seen a politician jump in and fight like that. It was scary and horrible. It is an embarrassment." In the chaos, Henyard was even thrown onto the ground and lost a shoe. Many people throwing punches. It is a chaotic scene. You can find the video for yourself at the New York Post. "It should have never come to blows, and Tiffany should have never got involved," said one eyewitness. Brown alleged that the fight was a pre-planned setup and claimed he's been called the same expletive by Henyard and her allies. "Let's be clear, I was fighting them all," Brown said. Kamal, however you pronounce it, grabbed my jacket in the beginning, which is why my head was down, but I powered through and was over it. I think, because she is running for re-election, I think we'll have plenty of updates on the world supermayor. But again, showing you why it is so important to know who you are voting for in that situation, not just because of that fight, for whatever that's worth, but also because of the budgeting that she was involved in, allegedly draining the coffers, a lot of alleged improprieties there. Okay, I know some people like those updates, some people don't, but I went with it anyway. All right, here we go. Let's go to some breaking news. Yesterday, early afternoon, evening, Capitol Police arrested a man with Molotov cocktails who was attempting to target Speaker Johnson, Hegseth, and Bessent. Interesting. The U.S. Capitol Police arrested a man with Molotov cocktails and knives who was allegedly attempting to kill House Speaker Mike Johnson and President Trump's two recently confirmed nominees, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Ryan English, who traveled from Massachusetts to Washington, turned himself into a Capitol Police officer on Monday near the south door of the building. It is said in court documents. Officers said they found a folding knife as well as two destructive devices from the inside pockets of his jacket. The destructive devices were constructed of 50-milliliter bottles of Absolute brand vodka with a gray cloth affixed to its top. A Green Bic brand lighter was also recovered from his pants pocket. Law enforcement also searched his vehicle, finding he had a 750-milliliter bottle of Smirnoff 100 proof vodka and a gray sweatshirt with cloth cut from the sleeves. Adding the cloth of the sweatshirt was the same as the cloth affixed to the destructive device. So that's a breaking story from yesterday. If you did not hear, glad that was able to be stopped before anything bad happened. Okay, what did you think if you have had the opportunity yesterday to watch the press briefing with our new press secretary, Carolyn Levitt? She said the president would open, as was promised at one point during the campaign, open the briefing room to bloggers, podcasters, and social media influencers. Now, we know President Trump credited Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, I'm not sure if he was at the inauguration, but I know he was at the prayer service before the inauguration, though I do believe he was actually at the swearing in. Not positive on that, but President Trump has credited social media and Barron's influence during the campaign of getting him on some of these podcasts that were so popular. Some of the numbers that you look at are staggering, specifically for his time with Joe Rogan. Carolyn Leavitt, speaking Tuesday at her first briefing since Trump took office, said the president would restore more than 400 press passes that were revoked during the Biden administration. The White House is also opening up new seats at the front of the briefing room for new media outlets. Quote, the Trump White House will speak to all media outlets and personalities, not just the legacy media seated in this room. We'll have to reach out, see if we can get a Frankly Speaking press pass. In the 46-minute briefing, Leavitt declined to say how often she would answer questions from the press, calling Trump his best spokesperson. Under past presidents, the White House has held briefings most weekdays. It will be interesting how frequently, I mean, she's the youngest. She did a great job yesterday. How frequently she will give the press briefings and how often Trump will be involved. If you recall, in the first term, Trump involved in the press briefings very frequently. She called on reporters in the back of the room and in the aisles, many of whom work for right-leaning news sites, according to the Wall Street Journal. In an indication that Trump himself will lead the administration's communications effort, Leavitt read a statement from the president about last year's spate of mysterious drone sightings in New Jersey. And we're going to give you that update here because it actually kind of raises even more questions than it answered. But that's how she kicked off the press briefing, getting a lot of attention with that, saying that this was not the enemy, meaning who was flying the drones. The briefing room aisles were packed with reporters and photographers on Tuesday, with a journalist at one point even asking, is this a fire hazard? The White House invited reporters from Axios, which is not conservative, and Breitbart News to ask the first questions, eschewing the tradition of starting the briefing with questions from the Associated Press. Now, it should be noted, Leavitt, who is 27, is the youngest press secretary in White House history. She served as a press aide during Trump's first term and then ran for Congress in 2022 in New Hampshire, where she grew up. In her race, she won the Republican primary, but lost the general election to Representative Chris Pappas by roughly 8 percentage points. That's probably enough on the history there. We will talk about a little bit of what she had to say after we take the short break, because we have a lot to cover this morning on breaking news. White House offering to buy out 2 million federal workers who won't return to office. The media is acting shocked over this, but if you recall, this was said really by Elon Musk quite some time ago, and I believe Trump before him, saying that we are going to reinstate in-office work, no longer working from home. And when we reinstate that, that'll cause a lot of people to not want to return, but we will offer, because essentially saying not heartless, we will offer severance packages. But this is a quick, easy step to kind of weed out some of the non-essential employees or some of the bureaucrats. That seems to be going into effect now. We've got a couple other issues coming from the White House. As I said, a little bit later on, we'll be talking to Steve Sprague in this hour. A lot more to cover as well, so stay with us. We're just getting started here on Frankly Speaking at WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Today's top increasing fuel costs continue to drive up inflation, making it harder to afford everything from food to home heating.
Here at Hustlesons, we know the only way to beat inflation is to fight inflation. So we're fighting back with zero interest financing and big cash rebates. Get a 4-person hot tub for your family for as little as $100 per month and pay zero interest. Or save up to $3,000 on a fabulous salt system hot tub. And of course, you will always get Hustlesons' unbelievable service. Don't let inflation fears kill your dreams. Fight back with Hustlesons. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustlesons.
I'm interested in trying these new weight loss shots, but I need it to be more affordable
because my insurance doesn't cover it.
I'm not sure which online provider to trust, and I want to ask a doctor a lot of questions.
The secret's out. At Henry Meds, our knowledgeable providers demystify compounded semaglutide, the same active ingredient in brand name weight management meds. If you're eligible for treatment, your medication will be shipped to your door for just $297 a month. You can save thousands by using Henry Meds for weight management medication.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history. The Frankly Speaking roof cam without any snow on it this morning. The Frankly Speaking roof cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. Comments from viewers. It was my gas bill that skyrocketed after the smart meter was installed. Okay, thank you very much. Your thoughts, because we had a comment after yesterday's program discussing, in this case, two different people here, that their electric bill had tripled over the last few months while the usage habit hasn't changed. Your experiences with that, I would love to hear from you. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. JFK has his confirmation hearing today. I hope he does well. Maybe prescription prices will come down. Well, thank you for that, because I actually wasn't going to talk about that next, but why not? Let's jump to that. We do have some other stories we'll get to in just a moment. But the Senate is going to kick off not just RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearings, but as well as Kelly Loeffler's hearings today. At approximately 10 a.m., hearings for both Kennedy in the Finance Committee and Howard Lutnick in the Commerce Committee will begin. Trump picked Kennedy to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, while Lutnick is the president's choice for Commerce Secretary. In the afternoon, Kelly Loeffler goes before the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship. The hearing for Trump's pick to lead the Small Business Administration starts at 3:30 p.m. So you knew, yesterday we talked about it, and there was some back and forth in certain media outlets. Some thought the confirmation started Wednesday. Some thought they started on Thursday. You could tell it started on Wednesday when I first saw the breaking news that Carolyn Kennedy attacked RFK Jr. in a scathing letter and video. The daughter of former President John F. Kennedy is speaking out against Robert F. Kennedy Jr., lambasting her cousin as a, quote, predator with dangerous views on vaccination who is unqualified to fill the role. I don't think this should come as a surprise. If you recall, the Kennedy family, the Kennedy clan, got together at the White House when Biden was in office to support Biden. And that was when RFK Jr. was talking about running third party, and they thought that could ultimately hurt Biden. So this is typical, I guess, of the Kennedys going after specifically Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Former U.S. Ambassador to Australia, Carolyn Kennedy, strongly urged senators in a video message posted on X to reject President Trump's nominee the day before the first of two high-stakes Senate hearings. Carolyn Kennedy saying, quote, he lacks any relevant government, financial, management, or medical experience. His views on vaccines are dangerous and willfully misinformed. These facts alone should be disqualifying, but he has personal qualities related to this job, which for me pose even greater concern. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He's always been charismatic, able to attract others through the strength of his personality, his willingness to take risks and break the rules. That included, Carolyn Kennedy claimed, other siblings and cousins following RFK Jr., a recovered heroin user, down the dark path of addiction to illness and death. Whew. Now, the shot across the bow from a family member did not reference Kennedy's many marital infidelities, so they go through even more and more. Kennedy also claimed that her cousin was looking to enrich himself by keeping a financial stake in a suit he is party to triumph against the drug maker Merck over potential risks from its HPV vaccines. Additionally, she blamed her relative for causing vaccine hesitancy that led to a deadly 2019 outbreak of measles. So the long knives are coming out for RFK Jr., but this has been pretty typical. This specifically coming from Carolyn Kennedy. raising some concerns. And yesterday we brought to you the piece from the New York Post editorial board suggesting that no senator should vote for Kennedy because of his liberal past. And this, I'm not bringing up any of this to downplay what the viewer said at all. I'm just going through what is typical in the confirmation hearings. We saw with Pete Hegseth, the kind of the Bork treatment, if you will. RFK Jr. is a menace to health and common sense. Shame on Republicans who support him, said David Harsani. I'm not going to go through this whole op-ed. But this says, he finishes by saying, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a menace to health, common sense, and children. Voting for him is an abdication of the Senate's responsibility to both the citizens and the Constitution. Your thoughts on that this morning as those hearings nearly get underway. They are going to be, I'm sure, a contentious hearing. Many of us been glued to the screen throughout the many hearings that have been going on. Specifically, Pete Hegseth was a kind of a fascinating one. Elise Stefanik did a great job in hers. That was fun to watch and see how she handled it. So will you be watching RFK Jr.'s confirmation or any of the other confirmation hearings today? And what are your thoughts on his chances? How about that? We had one viewer, as I mentioned, wanting him to do well so that maybe prescription prices will come down. Do you think he'll be confirmed at the end of the day? So moving along, we do have to take another break. Then we'll get to the drones, your thoughts on drones. A few things here about Musk, the federal government, Pete Hegseth hitting the ground running, ICE hitting the ground running. Also, maybe if we get an opportunity, a few updates on the news. We know that there's been some, for lack of a better word, shakeups at CNN and elsewhere. Jim Acosta has left CNN, making it official yesterday, as we had brought to you the kind of the anonymous sources that had said that he was out. Well, he made it official yesterday. We may talk about that as well. But let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs.
Your water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
Most doctors recommend daily walks because of the many health benefits associated with walking. But how do you get healthy circulation boosting activity without leaving your chair? With Legzercise Pro, the natural circulation booster that uses continuous automatic leg movement to soothe pain and promote healthy circulation the natural drug-free way. Soothe pain and calm restless legs. Reduce swelling in your legs, ankles, and feet and stimulate healthy circulation. Stay active with Legzercise Pro.
Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app. Your teams, your highlights, your scores. Get more of what you want. To the end zone. Stream your teams live. It's free with your pay TV subscription. Grab your Fox Sports app today.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs as we overlook historic Market Street, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Frankly Speaking. Thank you for joining us. We have a couple comments, a couple I missed because we were just coming back on the air. Good morning. Well, hey, good morning. Speaking of enriching themselves, if you recall, Pelosi, after Trump was made president, disposed of $30 million in stocks, $34 million in stocks, which I would bet was reinvested in the gas and oil industry. Sorry for the digression. No need to apologize. Yes, I recall that story. We brought it up on the program. It seems to be typical of Pelosi and her husband to make some what you could call very lucrative stock moves at certain times. So I don't know where specifically the money went to. I don't know. I don't have that answer, but thank you for the point there. By the way, did you see that one of the main stories that the media is running with is that consumer confidence fell to a 4-month low as Americans are now less optimistic about the economy and job markets. So the American people overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. But after a week, it's really interesting how this works. After a week, they no longer believe he has the capability to help the economy and the job market. Is that what we're expected or told to believe? But let's talk about drones. I keep digressing, to use that viewer's point, or word, I should say. The White House reveals about the explanation about the New Jersey drones. Carolyn Levitt said that the drones that terrified New Jersey residents last month were, quote, not the enemy. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. Well, I would say curiosity, of course, but also the lack of information coming from the government. If it had always been the FAA, why not come out and state that from the jump? But also to say that it was done for various reasons, such as research. What is the research? These are the questions that popped up after we received the quote-unquote answer. In many cases, it was near military bases, so we don't know what kind of research was being performed or details of what the other reasons were that were at play. Some leading politicians have been skeptical of the official explanation that the drones were innocent. And we don't need to go through all those quotes that we brought to you back at the time. It's amazing how stories so quickly fall by the wayside, especially now in the media cycle that we have under President Trump. Some of these things that would normally be breaking news and would be talked about all morning long on the program are now relatively old because there was 5 to 6 other stories that were breaking news throughout the day. One thing, since we're talking about technology and drones, and I see a lot of comments coming in, we're going to get to them. Billionaire Elon Musk vowed yesterday that he will bring home the 2 astronauts who have been stuck in space for about 8 months, quote, as soon as possible. Yes, you may have forgotten, much like the drone story, you may have forgotten that there are 2 astronauts stuck in space that have been there for 8 months. It was supposed to be kind of like Gilligan's Island, like a 3-hour tour type scenario. Been stuck there. There's major concerns, and rightfully so, for their physical and mental well-being. The SpaceX CEO, again, Elon Musk, and the Department of Government Efficiency head said in a social media post he was asked by President Trump to rescue Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, who have both been in space since last June. As part was initially meant to be a week-long mission. That's right. I know a 3-hour tour was an exaggeration, but it was only supposed to be a week-long mission. They have now been in space about 8 months. Plans involving a SpaceX capsule, have been in place to help the pair step on solid ground again since Joe Biden was president. The 2 NASA pilots reached the International Space Station via a Starliner, Boeing's first flight into space, but problems with the capsule quickly developed, including helium leaks and thruster problems. The Starliner returned to Earth last year after NASA determined it was too risky to have people inside. Musk went to X and stated, the president has asked SpaceX to bring home the 2 astronauts stranded on the space station as soon as possible. We will do so. Terrible, that the Biden administration left them there so long. So that is an update to a story that we have brought to you frequently on the program. That seems to be a lot of updates. So yes, the breaking story last night is that the White House is offering buyouts to around 2 million federal workers who won't return to office. As the article says, the golden age of America now comes with a golden parachute. So I'm not sure if they're being critical or just trying to have a little fun with the language, but this was stated quite some time ago when Elon Musk and at that time Vivek Ramaswamy were talking about making people come back into the offices, saying that if they decide not to and they quit their job or don't want to return, there will be buyouts, there will be kind of a severance because they're not doing it in a heartless manner. They're just doing it to encourage efficiency. The White House is offering buyouts to federal workers who don't want to return to office pursuant to President Trump's orders. The offer, contained in an email sent Tuesday, could significantly pare down the federal workforce as Trump terminates COVID-19 era policies that led many workers to do their jobs remotely. Now, some of the numbers that we've seen is that 50% of federal workers had some type of hybrid work, meaning that some was from home, some was from the office. I think it was 10% overall were completely work from home. This email is being sent to more than 2 million federal employees, Katie Miller tweeted on X. I know that's not what it's called. Tweeted on X. She's on the advisory board for the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. The offer comes on the heels of Trump's freeze on federal aid, an attempt to pause disbursements of grant money, which was held up Tuesday evening by a federal judge, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But White House aides expected between 5% and 10% of federal workers will take the deal, which is projected to save taxpayers $100 billion a year. That's according to Axios, which first reported on the plan. NBC News reported that the buyout offer would cover roughly 8 months of pay and benefits. Not a bad severance, 8 months. Quote, the government-wide email being sent today is to make sure that all federal workers are on board with the new administration's plan to have federal employees in office and adhering to higher standards. We're 5 years past COVID, and just 6% of federal employees work full-time in office. 6% full-time in office. That is unacceptable. At least one government employee was jubilant over the offer, texting to the New York Post, the gravy train is coming to an end for a lot of freeloaders. Your thoughts on that? We have our interview coming up next. We're going to be talking to Steve Sprague about his research back in 1976 about county charters and why there is the executive in Chemung, why there is manager in Steuben. This is just a look at maybe the possibility of changes at either level, just having the conversation, but that not obviously meant in any way to just to spark the conversation. I should put it that way. So that's coming up in just a moment. Then we will read some of your comments. Oh, here's one. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Did you see where the Dolton, Illinois super mayor ended up in a brawl at one of the city town hall meetings? Yes, I brought that up at the very beginning of the program. I knew there was people out there that like to hear about Tiffany Henyard. Yes, I brought that up at the very top of the hour, commenting about the fight happening at that town board meeting. That is not indicative of normal town board meetings. I want to make that clear if you're on the fence about attending one. Not typical to what happened in Dolton, Illinois last night. All right, we'll read some of your comments after the interview, but we have Steve Sprague coming up. Stay with us. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
At John G. Ullman Associates, our clients come first. As a fiduciary, we build personalized plans rooted in our shared ethics and values.
And you've been doing this for 45 years?
Yes, our in-house team creates custom plans built for you and your family.
We like the idea of a relationship that lasts.
That's what we're all about, helping you and your family build and protect wealth for generations. John G. Ullman and Associates, here for everything your money touches.
Isn't this important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, and batteries never need charging.
This is Life Alert. I'm calling for help right now.
Life Alert saves a life from a catastrophe every 11 minutes.
For a free brochure, call 1-800-806-2212. 1-800-806-2212.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio and in the Hesselson studio this morning, and we'll explain why in a moment. Steve Sprague. Steve, thanks so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me here. And for a lifetime bureaucrat, I want to thank you for having the water cooler nearby.
Of course.
It's the proper place for
this conversation. Yeah, it's strange. Your word, not mine. I thought we would start a little bit by talking about your background and why you're in here today. We found out long ago that you and I had kind of this same path in a way. Yours took a couple twists and turns that mine didn't, and vice versa. But in a career path, which will ultimately lead to why you're in today. But could you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Let me, before I do that, let me tell you that since I retired from my federal job and moved back to my hometown of Bath a couple of years ago, I want to congratulate you personally for what you do for the community.
Oh, well, thank you.
The special interests that are here to serve the community. It's really extraordinary.
Well,
and in all of my careers, which started actually leaning into journalism, it's been an awful lot of years, and that kind of coverage for people who are trying to help the community is very rare.
It is getting, and I thank you for the kind words, but it is amazing to see how many people jump at the chance to be on the show, because there's really not other opportunities out there anymore, unfortunately.
Not a lot at all.
And you think of, and I didn't even let you talk about your background, but you think about when you got in media, we talked about in the past, you started right around the time of the 72 flood, right?
Well, my first touch with the media was in high school.
Oh, okay, sure.
I went to high school, graduated in 1964, which makes me officially very, very old, by the way.
Sure, okay.
And in the senior year of high school, the radio station in Bath was brand new, and I was invited to come work there. Turned that into a full-time job for a year after high school. So I was a disc jockey.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, of course.
And did a couple of remotes, as I'm sure your broadcast career.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of remotes.
A number of times. Joined the Air Force in October 65.
Yeah.
Spent a year and a half in Vietnam as a combat correspondent for the Air Force. Got out, went to work again in radio in Rochester at WHAM radio.
Wham, of course.
And at that time, the FCC was considering separating radio and television stations because of conflict of interest. And so I wanted to get into television. That brought me to Elmira.
Of course.
So I finally got back close to home. I was working for Channel 36 in the 2 years leading up to the flood in 1972. So on top of Vietnam, I had flood experience.
Yes.
2 weeks after the flood, I went to work for the Star-Gazette, which
so you
was my
covered
first touch.
every type of market. Yeah, TV,
every
radio.
type of market in the media.
Yeah. Wow.
I ended up covering government in March of 1976.
Okay.
There was a special election for Congress. Jack Calkins, Republican, Stan Lundeen, Democrat.
Sure.
Stan won that, of course, and he invited me to come to Washington to work on his staff.
Okay.
And so I ended my journalism days, went into true swamp-ridden politics with a Democratic member of Congress. I served 2 other members of Congress, both Republicans, for another total of 12 and a half years.
Wow.
At the end of that, in 1988, I was invited to work for a small business association.
Okay.
And it happened to be an association of bus companies.
Sure.
Greyhound, charter bus companies. We had 1,000 members in the association.
Wow.
And I ran that for quite a while until 2003, when my my work as an association type and helping bus companies qualified me to go to work for TSA.
Okay.
TSA at that time, when I went to work for it in February of 2003, was still under the Department of Transportation.
Okay.
I was a little surprised to get my notice a week later that I was no longer a member of Department of Transportation, but I was a member of the new DHS.
I would think.
I want to point to the fact that the part of TSA I went to work for was something that many people don't know even existed. TSA is known, obviously, for aviation security.
Of course, yeah.
But it is also in charge of security for all of the modes. So I went to work for the highway security end of it. When I walked in the door, they said, "You're the chief of highway infrastructure security." Gave me a list of 620,000 bridges that I should try to protect.
Yes, of course.
A quick sidebar. TSA had 60,000 employees at the most. The non-aviation side, which at the time was called Maritime and Land Security, covered highway, freight rail, passenger rail, pipeline, and originally maritime. We never had more than 400 people out of 60,000. Now, while I was in Elmira, I also had the opportunity to attend the inaugural of the Clemens Center, where Ella Fitzgerald was the
how amazing is that?
Performer. Oh, it was fantastic. A great night. But I adopted one of her songs for the theme song of TSA. I called it, It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got a Wing.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Anyway.
But I know in the future, I hope we can talk about your time there with the TSA, because I think it'd be worth talking. We mentioned it with Sheriff Allard the other day on the program about vehicle terrorism prevention. So I hope in the future we can talk about that. But before that, let's talk about what we brought you in today to discuss, because you were part of, maybe people don't even realize the historic nature of what you covered back, you said in 76, because it has implications today. Could you tell us about that?
Well, when I moved back to Bath, it was the end of 2021. And of course, I have high school friends.
Oh, of course.
And it was just a nice return. My older daughter is in Rochester. She's a doctor of psychology, and I get to spend time with her and the kids. But I was a little surprised in March of 2023 when I received a gift totally unexpected. I don't know how many people get a gift from their credit card provider.
I don't think too many.
But in March of 2023, I received a very nice gift from American Express for my 50th anniversary.
Wow.
And it reminded me that I got my American Express in March of 1973. And I got it because the Star Gazette, and at that time we probably had 20 reporters, unlike what local newspapers are like these days.
Right.
I was a government reporter covering city and county government. And at the Star Gazette, they assigned me to do research on the question of county charters.
Interesting.
Now, a quick explanation. New York State law has ruled how counties operate since the state was created. But in 1935, they gave counties the opportunity to give themselves a greater home rule by adopting a county charter. It has to be approved by the voters. And in Chemung County at the time, the voters were given two choices: a county charter with an appointed county manager appointed by the county legislature, or elected by the people.
Right.
And I spent most of the rest of the year traveling around the state talking to elected managers, appointed managers, elected executives, and the legislators and the voters. And that was actually led to a 10-part series published before the elections of 1973. And I will admit that we leaned very heavily toward the choice of the elected executive.
Sure.
And I'll get into that a little bit later, but people in Chemung County may not realize that this year, in January, was the 50th anniversary of the first elected county executive taking his seat.
Interesting. Now, have you found in your research then, but also thinking about today, when people are given the option, do they tend towards voting someone in, or do they tend for a manager position?
When they're given an option, in many cases, people think of that the same way they do on the state and the national basis, and that is that having the opportunity to actually play a role in selecting who's running your government is important. And my fellows on the editorial board at the time realized was that the big difference between those two forms of government seemed to be, in my research and our own
subsequent
local
years,
activities, that an appointed manager gives the political leaders an opportunity to shroud, to keep out of the public eye some shady things at times. Now, when I returned, I also returned to a county that in 2012, Steuben County adopted a county charter, which is all good.
Sure.
But they were only given one choice, and that was with the appointed manager.
Oh, okay.
I always wondered, and my gift from American Express sparked this question again. I wanted to go back and kind of verify what we did in 1973 in Chemung by supporting the elected county executive.
It would be interesting to gauge the interest one way or the other, even to look back at what happened in Chemung. Would people want to go the other way? Would they not? And in this case, in Steuben County, would they want the option of being able to vote for as in Chemung, the executive?
Well, I'm sure that Steuben put it on the vote in before the voters in only one form, because it looks like the county of Steuben had an appointed administrator by the Board of Supervisors for many years.
Yeah.
But given, okay, we're going to have to come up current now.
Fast forward, okay.
Let's fast forward to, I saw that Sheriff Allard has been on your show a number of times. And when I began looking into what was happening with the sheriff, with the vote, with his lawsuit, it occurred to me, and the decision of the court issued November 25th on his case made it very clear that the very things we were trying to avoid by supporting an elected executive in Chemung County were happening there in my home county.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And it kind of made me want to go back into what I did before. And this looked like a classic example of the reason an elected executive brings more transparency and more voter and constituent involvement to the whole question. So my big issue right now would be to say, and this is not a knock on any personalities.
No. It's about the system.
The form of government that allows the kind of things that court decision pointed out happen.
Right.
Essentially, the compromise of some county officials who are there hired by the legislature. Remember now that in county level and most city and village levels, the elected lawmakers are only part-time.
Right.
They hire professionals to administer the government,
of course,
and to counsel them appropriately to avoid things like this lawsuit. That didn't happen before.
Right.
Now, I don't know if I want to make this a crusade, but the simple fact of the matter is that in light of what's happening, one good example today is the Steuben County Legislature need, apparently, or desire on some part, to vote to appeal that court decision using county money. Well, I think Sheriff Allard pointed out that it's been pretty expensive and it shouldn't have been brought in the first place. But to spend more county money, I would,
and I don't. You know me. I'm at a loss for words when when it's all the smoke cleared and it's all done. Time to move on. So to keep digging the hole doesn't make sense to me. So I understand your point here. How do you move forward with this conversation?
Well, let's start with the reality. The reality is that that court decision required the county to pay no more money. Didn't even pay Sheriff Allard's legal costs.
Right.
So letting it drop now and not investing more of my tax money would make sense. But if the legislature has an opportunity to vote one way or the other, we may get an indication of who is being pushed for political means.
Sure.
And I would think any legislator who votes to spend the county money to appeal simply to salve someone's reputation should be held liable at the vote.
And this is a big election year.
But the big issue I would like to see, and I'd love to hear how other people feel about it, is that I would advocate the addition of a referendum for the voters of Steuben County, giving them the choice to amend the Steuben County Charter from an appointed manager to an elected county executive.
To gauge the...
Now, that may not fix the big political picture, but it will give the voters the opportunity to feel like they made an actual choice.
So what I'll do is I'll ask listeners to write in right now and let us know what you think, because I think it'll be interesting to gauge what people's thoughts are on this, because this is about as wonky of an issue in a way, government-wise as it can be. Many people didn't know that there is a difference between Chemung and Steuben. I mean, really,
right.
They always wonder why the executive is such a heated race, and so a lot of people are learning about this on the go, and it's thanks to what's happening, I think, in Steuben County and Chemung to an extent. So we'll pose the question to listeners what they think, and you can keep us updated on your quote-unquote crusade. How's that?
Well, I will do that. I openly admit I have not attended a Steuben County legislature meeting since I've been here.
Okay.
I've been somewhat selective in my choice of people to talk to personally.
Sure.
I've met with Sheriff Allard. I've met with County Chair Kelly Fitzpatrick, both marvelous public servants, in my opinion. And toward the end of September, I met with County Manager Wheeler.
Yeah, Jack Wheeler, sure.
Very quickly, I tried to explain to him that I wanted to study the question of executive or manager in a large part just to justify what I did 50-some years ago. And he agreed. It's very cordial. We only had a short meeting. He agreed to sit down with an interview after the budget, but now it's quite a bit after the budget. I haven't gotten that call. But I think that voters would feel better about knowing, at least knowing. And again, the court decision took umbrage with the executive sessions. And actually, a vote on pursuing an appeal with my tax money could happen in an unannounced.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what it sounds like, and an unannounced in a meeting that you're not allowed to attend.
Well, yeah, and I want to make one final confession.
Yeah.
Ever since my first jobs in journalism, I have been a real Pollyanna.
Okay.
I like to think that the people we elect for public service think more about my needs than theirs. And I've never really been able to get that up.
Well, good for you. It's good that you're not jaded.
I guess.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for being on the show, and keep us updated.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And quick one. Yes, when I was at TSA, one of the things we worked on was preventative measures to stop what happened in New Orleans. I am pleased to say that Sheriff Allard has built those preventative issues in there, but I would also invite some of the event planners in this area. While we were building these things for the big cities, these preventative guidance issues, all I could think of was the Dairy Festival in Bath, New York.
Yeah, sure.
And as you pointed out, I think, in your interview with the sheriff, those events happen in big towns, little towns,
constantly,
and our towns. So building some preventative measures in there are a good thing to do. And now that I'm retired, can get up any time in the morning, by the way, after your show ends, usually. If anybody would like help with that, they can reach me through you.
Great. Well, thanks, Steve. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Frank.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
When you think boots, think Hesselsen's. Hesselsen's has the largest selection of work boots in the area. Composite and steel-toe boots, Met-Guard boots, soft-toe boots, and hikers, duty and western boots, all in one location. Hesselsen's at Meyer Heights. Hesselsen's has men's and ladies' boots in all sizes and widths. Choose from the largest names in the industry: Danner, Carolina, Timberland Pro, Keen Utility, Thorogood, Area, and Georgia, to name just a few. Hesselsen's has been locally owned and operated since 1955, so when you think local service and great selection, think Hesselsen's. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is History Making. Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to Steve Sprague for being on the program this morning. We have a lot left to cover in this hour. I'm going to change it from the Trump administration for just a moment because there's some major New York State issues that I think we should get to, specifically the electric vehicle school bus mandate. There was a press conference on this yesterday. We have a statement from Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski, as well as audio from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. So let's jump into that. We are going to get to more. A lot of people asking, is Carolyn Kennedy running for office? I got a couple of those comments because she came out yesterday speaking out against RFK Jr.'s nomination. That hearing is today. A lot of people defending, that's not the right word because that sounds like it's coming from a negative place, but wanting to see RFK Jr. nominated. So I've been posing that question to you. Please let me know. But let's talk. Well, in one other thing I do have to mention, because someone texted me from this program, and I was as shocked as you were. And I'm not sure if you saw it. I'm not sure because of copyright information if I can broadcast it on the air. But for some very unknown reason, frankly speaking, and I know I've joked in the past about major outlets watching the program and stealing our ideas. Well, in this case, we did make national in a positive way. Seth Meyers' late night show had a clip of me reading a news story. In no way the butt of a joke, just me talking about the news. So we did make national news, I guess you could call it, with the late night show with Seth Meyers. And thank you for those that saw it, reaching out and saying that they were just as shocked as I was. I appreciate that. If you do want to see it, just text me and I will send you the video. But for copyright reasons, I'm not sure if I should play it on the air. But yes, that was quite a shock yesterday and quite a surprise having, frankly speaking, featured, I guess you could say, on Seth Meyers' show. I do appreciate that. Okay, let's talk about EV school bus mandates. Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski mentioned how this is unworkable and unaffordable, weighing in at about $20 billion, this mandate. He's asking it to be scrapped or delayed, saying local taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for this politically driven mandate. I am not opposed to taking steps to protect the environment, far from it. But what we do has to make sense logistically and financially. Now, if you know, and we've talked about extensively on the program, the EV school bus mandate, basically, if it stands the way it is right now, you're looking at zero emissions from these school buses by the year 2035. And that is before New York State actually has to implement having electric vehicles for themselves. Assembly and Senate Republicans introduced legislation to delay the adoption of electric school buses until 2045 to give school buses time to adjust to the change, because it's not just, of course, the cost of the buses themselves, it's the infrastructure, it's the logistics. You talk about away games, you talk about rural areas like around here with quite long bus routes. Assemblyman Sempolinski also supports A 2005, a bill sponsored by Assemblyman Robert Smullen, which will allow school districts to submit a waiver to the Commissioner of Education, allowing them to opt out of certain zero-emission school bus requirements. This is what Assemblyman Sempolinski said, and then we will hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. And as a reminder, Phil will be on the program on Friday, so we'll talk about this more extensively with him. But this is Assemblyman Sempolinski saying, last year, Governor Hochul announced $500 million to help school districts buy electric school buses. That sounds great until you find out it will cost $20 billion to replace all 40,000 diesel school buses now in use and build the charging infrastructure schools will need. If the governor and the Democrat majority stick to their 2027 deadline, those costs will be passed down to already struggling taxpayers. New York's property taxes are already among the highest in the country, and those high taxes are a major reason why people are fleeing New York for more affordable states. In her State of the State address, Governor Hochul talked about making New York a more affordable place to live. She can do that by stopping unfunded mandates like the EV school bus order. And we could talk about all the costs of each individual bus, the infrastructure, but obviously unwieldy at a time when people are leaving New York State in droves because of the cost of living. Assemblyman Sempolinski said school superintendents in Cattaraugus and Allegheny counties have identified many bridges that aren't rated for the weight of a 72-passenger electric bus. That means they will be forced to buy 2 smaller electric buses if they want to keep the same bus routes. Rural school districts across the states are facing the same issue. Rural school districts and rural taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for this incompetence. That's from Assemblyman Sempolinski, Joe Sempolinski, who joined us last week on the program. Now let's hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano and his thoughts on this mandate that he has been so outspoken on, something that we talked to him extensively about and will continue to on Friday. So here is Assemblyman Phil Palmisano.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Robert, for hosting this very important press conference. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the mother of all unfunded mandates. We're talking about billions of dollars for vehicle replacement, infrastructure investments, and then our school districts are going to have to upgrade their electricity and their infrastructure as well, and that's going to be borne by the property taxpayer. Last year we had a press conference on this issue. The Shenandoah superintendent said it was going to cost them $30 million to do upgrades. That would be borne by their property taxpayers. The Horsehead School District said it would be $10 million, borne by their property taxpayers. You know, last year the governor was asked by the media, should we pause on the electric school bus mandate? Her answer was, well, that's up to the legislature. That is the most ridiculous answer I've heard. She's the one who put this in her budget and passed it. Make no mistake about it. This is all part of a radical energy climate agenda that's unworkable, not feasible, not safe, unreliable, and certainly very, very expensive. The CLCP and other bills like it. Make no mistake about it. It's all part of this plan to dismantle the affordable and reliable natural gas infrastructure supply and delivery system. It's designed to take away consumer choice on how you heat your home, cook your food, power your buildings, and the vehicles you drive. The more people see this, the more people hear about this and learn about it up close, they don't like it and they don't want it. Our school districts don't want it. The trucking industry don't want it with the regulations they're passing. The businesses don't want it. The people don't want it. Whether it's the gas stove ban, all electric buildings, all electric heating, EV cars, EV school buses, which we're talking about here, the ACT. We're talking about vehicles, but this is a train wreck heading down the tracks at the public, and many people don't understand it and have no idea. We're putting our eggs on this electrification basket. My colleague, Mr. Smolin, talked about the electricity rates. Right now, in New York State, the residential rate is 24 cents per kilowatt hour. That's 47% higher than the national average. The commercial rate is 19.1 cents per kilowatt hour. That's 44% higher than the national average. So we're going to have more electricity demand. It's just going to increase prices more. And Governor Hochul has talked about affordability. Where does this address the affordability crisis that we have in the state of New York? This school bus mandate was passed in a budget with no cost analysis given, no feasibility study given, no safety analysis, and no ensuring that it's sourced with U.S. parts, materials. And in fact, when I talk about safety, we talk about EV fires, battery storage fires. In Massachusetts recently, they had, earlier this month actually, they had a school bus fire, EV school bus fire. I think there were 4 buses involved. That's what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. We also have a bill that would deal with this thing. Before we move forward, there would be a feasibility study, a cost analysis, the safety study, working with the Office of Fire Prevention, and making sure the materials that produce the batteries are sourced with the U.S. because we do know, and I've talked about this, my colleagues, cobalt is used to produce a lithium-ion battery. Well documented, children in the Congo are mining these mines to get those materials. They're dying, they're being maimed, they're being paralyzed, and also poisoning water, rivers, and streams in South America in the lithium triangle. So it's like this agenda. It's okay if kids are dying and water, rivers, streams are being polluted in other areas, but if that was happening here, it wouldn't happen. The one thing that's most hypocritical about this bill that drives me crazy, we're mandating, the state of New York mandated that our school districts have to convert their entire fleet by 2035. Do you know when the state of New York has to convert their heavy-duty medium fleet? 2040, a full 5 years later than our school districts. And the state of New York has an out for feasibility and for reliability. How does that make sense to anyone? How about the state of New York go first? How about they work out the quirks. They figure it all out first before we make our property taxpayers spend 1 penny on this social experiment. There's other ramifications from this. The weight. And again, when we talk about diesel school buses, we're talking about near zero emission diesel school buses. A diesel school bus per axle is about 10 tons per axle. An electric school bus, on the front axle is 14 tons, the rear axle is 25 tons. The impact on our local roads, we had a hearing last week on this, and there's a study about to come out. One of the things they said, they would damage the roads 20% quicker. We know about the range issues, increase the per mile cost for maintenance $20,000 to $50,000, increase costs for rehabilitation, for reconstruction $500,000. This is happening too quickly. We need to pause. And even in the budget hearing, I mean, the governor, and I asked the media to ask the governor's office and the speaker this question: why are we making our school districts go first on this? Why doesn't the state of New York do this first? And the governor's office said, well, we have $500 million in the Bond Act, and we had this federal money coming in. During Harris, at the budget last year, when we asked the question, if you combine all that money, there's enough to purchase 3,000 school buses. We have a fleet of nearly 50,000 school buses. So the rest of that is going to be borne by the property taxpayers of this state. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill is the right bill. Give the choice to our school districts. Give them the choice to opt in. If they want to do it, great. Don't mandate it on them. Make the state of New York go first. And as we move forward with this, and with our energy plan, we need to make sure it's feasible. We need to make sure it's reliable. We need to make sure it's safe. And we need to make sure it's affordable. We need to pump the brakes on this thing right now. Actually, we need to slam the brakes on this thing. The governor should realize that and hope she addresses some of these questions. And let's make New York go first. Again, let's not make our school districts, our local property taxpayers, be the guinea pig for this social experiment that's not worked, that's not feasible, and is really problematic if you just have to talk to them. So thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate the time to be here, and thank you for being here.
Thank you to Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for that clip in reference to EV and that new bill that we talked about with Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. Again, Phil Palmisano will be on the program on Friday, so do not miss it. When we come back, some updates on the Trump administration, some ICE updates as well. We got some comments from viewers, so stick with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Lease a brand new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Premium all-wheel drive featuring power moonroof and heated seats for only $359 a month for 36 months. Make Carbine simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Subaru in Big Flats.
Most doctors recommend daily walks because of the many health benefits associated with walking. But how do you get healthy circulation boosting activity without leaving your chair? With Legzercise Pro, the natural circulation booster that uses continuous automatic leg movement to soothe pain and promote healthy circulation the natural drug-free way. Soothe pain and calm restless legs. Reduce swelling in your legs, ankles, and feet and stimulate healthy circulation. Stay active with Legzercise Pro.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro. The smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-329-5202. That's 1-800-329-5202, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
There's been another deadly shooting at a local elementary school. According to authorities, the suspect acquired the gun from a family member's home before using it to take the lives of innocent children and teachers.
Store your gun securely, locked, unloaded, and away.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Let's go through some comments from viewers. If you're new to the program, you see that number on the bottom of your screen. You can reach out at any time, and the waves are just a fun way to be involved with the program. You can just send a wave. All right. Comment from Ken in Horseheads. I have been thinking about the social media moguls deciding to not censor and fact check contributions in the name of free speech. We all know they have not been honest with us in the past, and that above all, they want to protect their bottom line. So why would that really change now? Could it be that they are telling us what they intend on doing to become a platform of free speech by eliminating the monitoring and censorship, but really have no intention of actually doing that? If they get people to believe that they are not censoring speech, will the users put more stock in what they read, believe that what is true and uncensored when it hasn't really changed? This wouldn't fool all the people, but it will fool some of the people. Yeah, I am concerned too, Ken, and I appreciate your concern, because if you look at now, Elon Musk, he bought X. He was ahead of this trend. And X, of course, intended to push free speech. If you look at Mark Zuckerberg, the concern there is he was dragged into it after the fact. So Musk campaigning with Trump, donating to Trump, Zuckerberg wanting a seat at the table after Trump won. So he went along with the Biden administration with the censorship of the laptop story. But then, when you get dealt a bad hand and your candidate or party doesn't get in, do you change? Do you adapt? Do you bluff? Could that be what this is all about? So yes, we've talked about those red flags in the past. Oh, we have so many other comments, and I apologize. We will read them after the next break. I just didn't have a chance. Oh, one other comment. Yes, Seth Meyers. Yes, we did, for some unknown reason, we did make Seth Meyers a late night show here on Frankly Speaking, and it was fine. It was just me talking about, of all things, Greenland and Denmark. So nothing to report on other than the fact that, Frankly Speaking, making national news, and we do appreciate that. We appreciate the coverage. Okay, so a judge did pause Trump's funding freeze order until February the 3rd. The U.S. Department of Justice objected to the administrative stay, with Judge Lauren Elikon issued at nearly the last minute before the order was set to take effect. This should come as no surprise. The New York Post editorial board had a kind of a good, if you will, for lack of a better word, take on this, saying, despite the howls of outrage and already launched lawsuits from the left, Team Trump's pause on federal spending on most grants, loans, and more is a wise, perhaps necessary move to ensure American tax dollars are well spent and to keep up the battle against Biden inflation. The freeze doesn't impact, and this is an important note, doesn't impact certain programs with direct benefits to recipients, such as Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and food stamps. They are all exempt. Yet the outlays, now frozen, pour into most every corner of society and accounted for up to $3 trillion of federal spending in 2024. No way was every single dollar of the $3 trillion well spent or properly overseen. How much, if any, was even necessary? Federal programs and grants typically start because they seem like a good idea, but almost never end, even if they flop. The endless proliferation guarantees significant waste and misuse. And when the unfunded spending growth goes on steroids, as it did the last 4 years under the Biden administration, Americans get hit by inflation. The memo itself from the Office of Management and Budget makes clear why the freeze is happening. Quote, the American people elected Donald J. Trump to be president of the United States and gave him a mandate to increase the impact of every federal taxpayer dollar. And while national Democrats like our own Chuck Schumer and you have Washington Senator Patty Murray are letting out their usual apocalyptic cries, while New York Attorney General Letitia James and her peers in other states are suing, and indeed a federal judge temporarily blocked the freeze late yesterday, as I mentioned. This is a crucial opportunity to put certain government outflows under a microscope and find out which are really necessary. So just like we mentioned with the offering of severance packages to federal employees who did not want to return to work, wanted to continue to work from home, this is another step in fulfilling the promises that Donald Trump made on the campaign trail. So the media and the Chuck Schumers of the world can act outraged, act shocked, but they should have saw this coming. But I think in the media specifically, there is always a surprise when any candidate tries to make good on his promises that they ran on. And Donald Trump has done that tenfold, perhaps even more, in this first week and not even a week and a few days, making major changes, making major decisions right in line with his campaign promises. So as the Post wraps up, regardless, the memo and the out-of-whack response are strong reminders. Those trillions do not belong by rights to nonprofits or defense contractors or research universities. They belong to the American taxpayer. And the government these taxpayers repose their trust in has not only the right, but the duty to see that the money's spent well in a way that doesn't end up hammering everybody's pocketbook. And yes, there are going to be a lot of legal fights over this, but this is an example of cutting, how many times I know Rand Paul does it quite frequently, I think right around Christmas, his list of grievances of some of where our tax dollars are being spent. So the media, the Chuck Schumers, those in the Democrat Party can be outraged, but this is just Trump attempting, we'll see after the lawsuits, but attempting to fulfill campaign promises. And that's why the idea of Doge came out so early, because this was a common theme. More government efficiency, and specifically with your tax dollars. Okay, yes, people are asking. I will send you, if you want to see the clip where Frankly Speaking made it on the Seth Meyers late night show, I can text that to you. Just mention that you want to see it. I don't dare air it on the air. I don't want to run afoul of any copyright laws, but nothing negative at all. Just it was nice to be on there, and we appreciate it. All right, we'll be right back. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, and batteries never need charging.
This is Life Alert. I'm calling for help right now.
Life Alert saves a life from a catastrophe every 11 minutes.
For a free brochure, call 1-800-806-2212. 1-800-806-2212.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app.
For the touchdown!
Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription. Grab your Fox Sports app today.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We have a lot of comments from viewers. Let's get right to them. And I know the EV mandate has always been a very hot topic on this program. One that some would maybe argue is a wonky topic, but quite the opposite. On this program, we get a lot of great comments from viewers on it, and we're so glad that we can hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano as well as Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski on it specifically, and we appreciate them sending either press releases or the audio in. Okay, here we go from a viewer. Regarding EV mandates, given that it used to be that butter, for example, was not good for you, and you should instead use margarine, given that if you buy the Big Bang Theory, then at that time and moving through time, our atmosphere would have been full of carbon. Currently, the thought is that carbon, fossil fuels, are responsible for global warming and climate change. But like the 180 about consuming butter, I will have to assume that the reason for global warming will at some point be disproved. Given the above, the EV mandate, and the idiotic penalties against oil and gas companies, etc., it is irresponsible to jump into any drastic measure designed to reduce carbon emissions. And I think you raise a good point. When we talked about the business climate in New York and what the Climate Change Super Fund that Governor Hochul signed into law, which penalizes fossil fuel companies for following the rules, listening to what the DEC requested, getting all the proper permits, doing everything above the books. But now that carbon emissions, if you will, are out of style, if they ever were in style, but are out of style, then they backdate it, these fines. Again, these companies did everything that they were told to do, followed the books, went through the red tape, and now, after the fact, retroactively, they're being penalized. So think, to your point on margarine and butter, think if you are a business, and that's one example, but think if you're a business that wants to sell butter, and then it became out of fashion, so the governor decides, we're going to go after you. How many businesses are now not even contemplating moving to New York because of perhaps a penalty that could hit them 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line? So that's just one of the many factors, and thank you for your overall point, but that's one of the many factors of the disastrous legislation coming out of Albany and Governor Hochul's office when it comes to business climate and the economy in general. Comment from a different viewer. Electric school buses are not the thing up here because the batteries do not like the cold and need to be replaced a lot at a very expensive price. In my opinion, they need to scrap the idea. Yeah, scrap the idea at the very least, as Sempolinski and Palmisano said, pump the brakes or hit the brakes. This anecdotal number of 2037, no real reason for that, right? 2037, 2035. No specific reason on reasoning behind that. And again, you've got to think, why doesn't New York State, 2035, excuse me, why doesn't New York State have to follow the same EV mandates as the schools? Because that is 2035, all school buses must be electric, zero emission. But New York State has not set that same time frame for their state vehicles. So good point. And another comment from viewer, congratulations for making national news, Frank. Well, thank you. Yes, on Seth Meyer's program, surprised as you are, but if you'd like to see it, let me know. I can text that to you. Just give me a text. Okay. Boy, Pete Hegseth is hitting the ground running. The Pentagon is pulling General Milley's security detail and clearance immediately. He may actually face a demotion in his retirement Pete Hegseth will announce he is immediately pulling retired General Mark Milley's personal security detail and security clearance, according to multiple senior administration officials. The secretary is also directing the new acting inspector general to conduct a review board to determine if enough evidence exists for General Milley to be stripped of a star in retirement based on his actions to undermine the chain of command during President Donald Trump's first term. Now, we also know that the portrait of General Milley was removed from inside the Pentagon. And we don't need to go into all that. That's relatively old news. On Fox News Sunday, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Tom Cotton, said he hoped President Trump would revisit the decision to pull the protective security detail from John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, and Brian Hook, who previously served under Trump. So we'll see what kind of reaction this gets. But General Milley, perhaps, will have his security detail pulled and a clearance immediately removed. But he may face a demotion in his retirement as well. That will be interesting to watch. You know, they're calling this kind of retribution from Trump. I'm not sure if that is the right word. We know that removing the security detail has become somewhat of a staple of this administration. Hegseth will also direct the Defense Department's Inspector General to conduct a review board to investigate whether Milley should be stripped of his star because of his actions to undermine, again, the chain of command. Trump has been at odds with Milley since his first term, as you know. All right. Also on the military front, 6 transgender members of the military have sued President Trump over his executive order banning trans people from serving. The suit filed in Washington federal court yesterday by 6 current service members and 2 transgender people seeking to enlist comes a day after Trump signed an order claiming transgender people's sexuality, quote, conflicts with a soldier's commitment to an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle and hurts military preparedness. The plaintiff said the order is unconstitutional and are seeking an emergency ruling to block it from being enforced so they can continue to pursue their military career. They say Trump issued the categorical ban without conducting a study on the effectiveness of the service of trans people and without seeing if there were other less drastic options. Rather than being based on any legitimate government purpose, the suit says, the ban reflects animosity towards transgender people because of their transgender status. So there is a couple of quick updates. Oh, also, since I guess this is what we talked about on Seth Meyers, Denmark is going to increase military spending in the North Atlantic by $2 billion amid this row with Trump over Greenland. The government of Denmark says it will increase military spending in the North Atlantic amid U.S. President Trump's bid to have Greenland sold or ceded to the United States. Late Monday, the Danish government announced an agreement of 14.6 billion kroner, which is nearly $2 billion US dollars, with parties including the government of Greenland and the Faroe Islands to improve capabilities for surveillance and maintaining sovereignty in the region. All right, there we go. We have a few other things here that we need to get to, but I do have to take a short break. So stay with us. Keep those comments coming in. I appreciate it. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Today we are talking about Medicare Part C, commonly called Medicare Advantage. If you're losing benefits for any reason or new to Medicare, you can call now because you may be eligible for plans in your zip code with additional benefits or cost savings you may not be receiving now or that may have previously not been available to you. Different Part C plans are available in different parts of the country, so don't wait. Call the number on your screen now. You should call now even if you've called before. We will check to see if there is a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits and potential cost savings. Call to speak with a licensed insurance agent and find out if you are eligible for a special enrollment period. You don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2025 no-obligation Medicare benefits review.
Just call 800-779-6410. 800-779-6410.
Today we are talking about Medicare Part C, commonly called Medicare Advantage. If you're losing benefits for any reason or new to Medicare, You can call now because you may be eligible for plans in your zip code with additional benefits or cost savings you may not be receiving now or that may have previously not been available to you. Different Part C plans are available in different parts of the country, so don't wait. Call the number on your screen now. You should call now even if you've called before. We will check to see if there is a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits and potential cost savings. Call to speak with a licensed insurance agent and find out if you are eligible for a special enrollment period. You don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2025 no-obligation Medicare benefits review.
Just call 800-779-6410. 800-779-6410.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. My minimal opinion about global warming is that as follows. It is logically possible that heat alone is responsible for global warming, not carbon emissions. In this, I perceive that the increase in human population and the warming of their homes during the winter and so on is responsible for global warming. Period. Thank you very much. I remember doing some research on this way back, and so much has changed. But when research was originally done on global warming, as it was originally called, there was a factor that no one really wanted to take into account, which was something called heat island effect. And I don't know if the name's changed on that, but heat island effect was exactly what you're speaking of. You know, you look at a city having higher temperatures because there's so many buildings, so many people in a more dense population or more dense location, and that showed an increase in temperatures. So that was often taken to mean that the temperatures were rising, but many, again, focusing on the heat island effect, saying that that's just, in fact, kind of, for lack of a better word, human nature. Hey, thank you, Frank. You made national news. Hey, thank you very much. Yes, Seth Meyer, appreciate that. Okay. Trump is following through with unprecedented and swift action to begin his presidency. According to Glenn Reynolds at the New York Post, he said soon after November's election, I suggested that if Donald Trump were smart, he'd come in like a wrecking ball, move fast, break things, and make change across many fronts all at once, subjecting the Democrats, the media, and the left, but I repeat myself, to shock and awe. Boy, has he ever done that, unleashing unprecedented change in just his first 100 hours. And he points to things like the Department of Government Efficiency, canceling wasteful government contracts, ending the work from home. A week or two ago, all this seemed too hard to accomplish, or we were told it was too hard to accomplish. An optimistic growth and equality-oriented culture will be better for everyone than the discriminatory one peddled by the left. And he's talking about DEI, and these are just some of the things that Trump has went after. No wonder people on the right are upbeat. But people on the left aren't as pessimistic as they pretend to be either. As Seth Barrett Tillman noted, leftists may pretend that America is 1933 Germany, but they aren't acting like it. They're keeping themselves and their money squarely at home, not fleeing the country, as they should. It's a bright new day. You might almost say it's morning in America or something. That's Glenn Reynolds, professor of law at the University of Tennessee. Or as Rich Lowry said, talk loudly and swing a huge stick. Trump does Teddy Roosevelt one better. Judging from the first week or so, the Trump doctrine is going to be, we can do it in the easy way or we can do it the hard way. Those are the words the president used in a post on Truth Media last week, threatening tariffs on Russia if it didn't cut a peace deal with Ukraine. He's going to talk loudly and swing whatever he has in his hand. Whatever happens, though, it's almost certain that Trump is going to squeeze every ounce of power and influence out of his presidency. That coming from Rich Lowry. Your thoughts on that? We mentioned earlier today is the confirmation hearings for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Carolyn Kennedy coming out and calling him a predator. We had some ask, whether or not she is thinking about running for office or trying to become relevant, perhaps, again, was the term one viewer used. Not necessarily surprised that there would be these attacks on him right before the confirmation hearings. I know you want to be surprised because it's a Kennedy, and you have the media going after a Kennedy, which most people thought would never happen. And then you have his own family, normally a kind of, a close-knit group. His family coming out against him, going back to when he was going to run for president on a third party, the Kennedy clan going to the White House, speaking out against Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, kind of a doubling down of that as he enters his confirmation hearing. Would you like to see him nominated? Do you think he will be nominated? Two very different questions. Now, yesterday, I like how they have to put this in the headline, but typical media. Former reality TV star Sean Duffy confirmed as Transportation Secretary. Donald Trump's selection to lead the Transportation Department. Former Fox News personality and MTV Real World star Sean Duffy has been confirmed by the Senate. We don't need to go through his whole history of, reality TV. But a former Republican Wisconsin congressman, Duffy received bipartisan support in the Senate, which voted unanimously to push his nomination through before voting him in his favor, 77-22. Wisconsin Democrat Senator Tammy Baldwin, who introduced Duffy at his confirmation hearing, gave the Trump pick glowing reviews, saying he is the right person for the job. Sean has been a tremendous and well-liked public servant, Trump lauded the former Fox News host when he announced his nomination. So that is an update from yesterday as well. Here is an interesting one. This is both federal and kind of a New York issue. If you recall the name, then gubernatorial candidate Mark Molinaro. Mark Molinaro ran for governor and then ran for Congress. He was not successful in governor, obviously, but he was successful in Congress. And then he just recently lost his reelection in that close, hard-fought race, one of the most expensive races in all of Congress. Well, Trump is going to name Mark Molinaro to oversee transit, which is interesting. Why do I mention this? Well, first of all, we'd like to hear from Mark Molinaro, great guy. Back in radio, I had him on the program numerous times when he was running for governor. Many people speculated he was going to run again at some point. Well, the former Republican congressman from the Hudson Valley, and this is why I bring it up, the important point, an opponent of congestion pricing, is in line to lead the federal agency that oversees mass transit. Mark Molinaro has had discussions with the Trump administration about leading the Federal Transit Administration, according to people familiar with the matter. Part of the U.S. Department of Transportation, the FTA, oversees mass transit systems around the nation and disperses roughly $20 billion a year in grant funding. Molinaro has previously said he would be open to serving in the Trump administration. Several people briefed on his pending appointment said they expected it to be announced after Sean Duffy passed in the Senate. President Donald Trump's nominee to lead the Federal Transportation Department. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes. With Mark Molinaro, he's everywhere. I didn't know he was looking to be in the Trump administration. I believe Trump endorsed him, but I know he went a little bit more moderate in some instances. So I'm not going to say I was shocked by that announcement, but didn't see it coming either. So I wanted to pass that along to you as well. Maybe something that you missed as we talk about the smear campaign against Pete Hegseth, now Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And again, I ask you the question, do you think he will pass the confirmation hearing? But you also see the smear campaign against Kash Patel. Dick Durbin pushed an anonymous smear, which is always troubling, about Federal Bureau of Investigation Director nominee Kash Patel just days ahead of his confirmation hearing. Now, Kash Patel is to begin his confirmation hearing on Thursday, so Dick Durbin pushed, again, an anonymous smear. Durbin, in a letter sent to Trump administration officials dated January 27, 2025, said he received, quote, highly credible information that Patel broke protocol regarding hostage rescues when he commented to the Wall Street Journal, quote, without authorization, about a successful hostage rescue during the first Trump administration in October of 2020. I'm not going to get into the specifics of this, but this is something we saw last go around in 2016, or technically 2017. A lot of anonymous sources used to smear either Trump or nominees to his cabinet. So passing that along to you just so you can be prepared, as you undoubtedly see more coverage on that as Kash Patel's confirmation hearing is set to begin on Thursday. All right, we got to take another short break. We've got a couple updates on ICE. I'm hoping we can get to a little bit here about the media as well. So stay with us. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
I'm Marianne Kirk. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Today, talking about Medicare Part C, commonly called Medicare Advantage. If you're losing benefits for any reason or new to Medicare, you can call now because you may be eligible for plans in your zip code with additional benefits or cost savings you may not be receiving now or that may have previously not been available to you. Different Part C plans are available in different parts of the country, so don't wait. Call the number on your screen now. You should call now even if you've called before.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Sorry, Frank, but I can't get my mind off global warming. No need to apologize. I would blame the rise in ocean temperatures due to the amount of garbage and heated wastes being dumped into our ocean. Good point. Thank you. No need to apologize. Love to hear the comments. Yesterday, a leader of the vicious, and I see more people calling it this because I know I'm never pronouncing it right, but the TDA gang, and that is the Tren de Aruga. I sound like an old car horn when I say the last name, so I don't think I am pronouncing it right. So I'm going to go with TDA. One of the ringleaders, a vicious ringleader, was busted in an immigration raid in New York City yesterday. That leader was saw in the infamous caught-on-camera break-in at the Aurora, Colorado, was nabbed Tuesday in a dramatic pre-dawn raid in New York City across from an elementary school. Anderson Zambrono Pacheco, 25, was taken into custody as part of the Trump administration's first promised immigration raids in the big city. He was caught by heavily armed Homeland Security investigating officers who stormed an Ogden Avenue apartment building. We're seeing the videos. Yesterday, Kristi Noem was a part of the raids. She vowing to continue to be a part of those raids. We've just gotten started, she said. We are picking up the worst of the worst in this country. Again, Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. Noem donned a protective ice vest as she embedded with officers from multiple federal agencies to hit targets across all 5 bureaus in New York City. Quote, "We did encounter and incarcerate a TDA member, one of the ringleaders," she told Sean Hannity. He had warrants out for his arrest in Colorado. In fact, he was one of those that we saw on some of the videos from the apartment building that they had taken over and had perpetrated so much violence there. So this was a good morning for our agents. Noem further revealed that the TDA ringleader had allegedly tried to buy some grenades and took part in a gun buy before he was apprehended by authorities. We talk about families that are losing their kids to violence, losing our next generation of Americans to drugs. These folks are perpetrating that, and we're going to get them out of here. Now, New York has said that it will cooperate with the federal government on some immigration cases. The governor's office released a list of 4 specific circumstances under which the state can coordinate with U.S. immigration and customs enforcement officials. The list includes instances where a person living in the country illegally is convicted of a state-level crime, but it also applies to people who are suspected of an immigration crime, like unofficial border crossings or attempted re-entry after deportation. The governor's cooperation policy would not apply to civil immigration violations, including when a person overstays their visas. Quote, "We believe that the immigration system is broken," Hochul told reporters yesterday. "We do not have open borders here. That was never the intent. But I also know the great state of New York will not stand for children to be in fear in schools or people in churches cowering in basements out of fear." This goes back to what we talked about with Sheriff Allard yesterday. Governor Hochul realizes, especially as Richie Torres is signaling a primary against her, that public safety is, if not the number one concern in New York, very close to the number one concern. It's that, taxes and the economy. So she's trying to be more tough talk. Also, there's the fact that she sees the landslide that happened in November for people that were talking things like public safety and actually talking about fixing our broken immigration system. And she realizes as she nears 2026, when she needs to run for re-election or wants to run for re-election, that she really has to at least try to, for lack of a better word, dupe you on her policies, convince you that she's tough on public safety, that she's tough on immigration, when we saw quite the opposite for the last 4 years. But Hochul is defending now the ICE expansion. The action in these raids led Attorney General Letitia James to monitor the situation and the increased presence of ICE across New York City. The Democrats separately promised imminent legal action against the Trump administration's sweeping pause on federal funding. We already know about that. But Hochul has defended the ICE expansion. Now, I think begrudgingly, but did so nonetheless. Stephen Miller, it went after, and that's why House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller was on CNN's The Lead with Jake Tapper and said, "Well, I'm sure it's not your position, Jake. You're just asking the question that we should supply America's food with illegal alien labor. I obviously don't think that's what you're implying. Only 1% of alien workers in the entire country work in agriculture. The top destination for illegal aliens are large cities like New York, like Los Angeles, and small industrial towns, of course, all across the heartland. As we've seen with the Biden floods, none of these illegal aliens are doing farm work. The illegal aliens that Joe Biden brought into our country are not full stop doing farm work. They are not. The illegal aliens he brought in from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Nicaragua, they are not doing farm work. They are in our cities collecting welfare. As for the farmers, there is a guest worker program that President Trump supports over time as well. We will transition into automation, so we'll never have to have this conversation ever again. But there's no universe in which this nation is going to allow the previous president to flood our nation with millions and millions of illegal aliens who just get to stay here. We're especially not going to allow a subset of those illegal aliens to rape and murder our citizens. So we are going to unapologetically enforce our immigration laws. As I'm sure you will celebrate, we are going to unleash the power and might of the U.S. government to eradicate the presence of transnational threats on our soil." So that was in response to, of course, one of the type of loaded questions coming from Jake Tapper. You would think he would learn, as we've seen so many layoffs from CNN and ratings plummeting. But the biased question and trying to present this narrative that without illegal immigration, that there'd be no produce, that farms are going to go under. We're going to talk a little bit more about the media and wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. So stay with us. We will be right back.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers. This free book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. Call right now for your free book, and as a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-354-5972.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are wrapping things up on this morning's edition of Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. The mainstream media is covering deportation in a bad light. As usual, they missed the point that this is what we voted for. And I think that's why you see Governor Hochul act anyway, begrudgingly, as if she's open to some of these raids. So I think you're right that some people are seeing it. Okay, comment from Ken. Many years ago, when I was about 15 years old, our family went to Ohio to visit my uncle's family on my father's side of the family. My uncle was a computer technician for NASA. When computers were the size of a house, he and my dad were science nerds and excitedly took both families to a NASA symposium on the sun. The only thing that stuck in my mind from the lecture was that our sun goes through solar minimums and solar maximums during approximately a 30 to 50 year cycle. And at the time, we were in the middle of a cycle heading for the bottom of a solar minimum. I searched online about these minimums and maximums, but can't find any info about them. I did recently see a report that stated the sun is currently near its maximum output. This could be the reason for the warmer temperatures today in lieu of climate change. Climate change doesn't bring in as much money. If climate change doesn't bring in as much money. Thank you, Ken. Thank you for that. Jim Acosta has revealed his next move after his, I guess you could say, dramatic exit from CNN. Of course, he wasn't put on the schedule. He said because of the schedule changes, no longer at 10 a.m., they were talking about moving him to midnight. He said, I'm walking away. He made the announcement yesterday, signing off as the CNN anchor. And, of course, he signed off with an anti-Trump rant. Should be no surprise. He loved being the face of that kind of anti-Trump activism in the mainstream media. Hey guys, I've started something new. Go check it out, he tweeted yesterday. His new landing spot will be similar to the route many exiled journalists have taken in recent years, which is Substack. I am not overly familiar with Substack, but if you wanted to follow him, I'm sure he will not rein in his anger for Trump. If anything, it'll be unleashed even more so, though he may not have the access to the president like he did in the past. CNN staffers are reportedly embarrassed by the post-election direction. They're paying people to kiss, we'll say, Donald Trump's ring. We're told that under new boss, Mark Thompson, who's been accused of pandering to the White House, it's gotten so bad that some employees are ashamed to even work there. That's all because they might not be as anti-Trump as they once were. And now they're ashamed to work there at CNN? Interesting. This is coming from page 6 at the New York Post. That they're not happy the way CNN and the direction they are headed after Trump's victory. And now we learn that CNN couldn't pull 500,000 average viewers during the busiest news week of the year. Last week, it is being reported they could not achieve 500,000 average primetime viewers. Oh, by the way, quickly, Tim Walz says losing presidential election is, quote, pure hell, and admits that the Democrats are fatigued in an interview he gave with Rachel Maddow. You know that overused term, the frog in the boiling water? We've been in the pot way too long, Walz said about the Democrat Party. I think it's speaking up. It's talking to your neighbors, etc. But yes, losing was pure hell. We are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the waves. And we will be back tomorrow morning with Frankly Speaking only on WYDC TV Big Fox. I look forward to it already.